We just smashed through 3,000 subscribers on the channel. I'm so thankful for all of you guys supporting the channel. Welcome to all the new subscribers. And I've decided, I think it's a good time to actually introduce myself properly to all of you and keep these videos, somewhat on top of my channel. So whoever comes next wants to find out who is this guy, right? Who's this Polish immigrant talking about all these things? It's going to be a good reference point. I think that's a good starting point for whoever is coming to the channel and wants to learn more about me and my journey. And I also think, I know my journey has been a pretty wild one as an immigrant, and I'll tell you about this. But also, I've been told many times that it's a very inspirational story. I've had people coming to me, telling me personally, like in my face, people who knew me or people I worked with, they said it helped them get through some hard times. It helped them stay more positive, and actually appreciate the immigrant journey and the country they're all in. In my case, it was the UK. So I'm going to try to keep it as short as I can. It's probably not going to be it might be a bit boring for some of you, but I think a lot of you probably would want to hear the whole story, because you will find bits and pieces which will probably resonate with you, even if you're not an immigrant, very much so. And it's probably going to give you some perspective of what is the average immigrant going through in order to make it, right? So I'm going to tell you first why I came to the UK, and it's important because I wasn't planning to stay in the UK for more than 12 months, right? So back in the day, around when I was in my 20s, I had this idea to open a business back in Poland, and it was a streetwear shop, right? So the normal brick and mortar business shop, you could walk in and basically buy some fancy clothes, mainly shoes. And bear in mind, that was a time where Poland was very grey country. There was very, very few options for people in terms of like buying, fancy clothes. So I applied for the government grant. I think there was somewhere around £10,000, which was a lot of money back then. It's still a lot, but back then for me in my 20s was a lot. And I was already, so I was also studying. I was at university studying political science. So I've applied for that grant and I got that money, and I opened a shop in a city called Poznań. The shop was called Can I Kick It? And the idea was to open a boutique kind of store. When I was a DJ as well. Before that, I was making money. I was always making money somehow. So I was a DJ. We had, the idea was to have this boutique store where you could actually walk in, you can sit down on the leather sofa, read the magazines about streetwear, fashion, get yourself a nice pair of Jordan shoes or something like this, right? While there's music and some videos going on. So we got this financed from the grant, and I started going to Berlin, driving to Berlin and just buying shops, like just from the shop, like going to the shop, find the shoes I liked or clothes I liked, buy them, bring them back to Poland and resell them in our store. And the long story short, we became quite successful and very well known. We had like top Polish hip hop guys coming in and buying from our shop, lots of famous people. And through word of mouth, Nike Poland, Nike, the brand, heard about us, and they invited us to the headquarters in Warsaw, where I went. That's another story I tell you the other day. Like, it was a funny story because I went in there wearing a suit, young me wearing a suit, and they walk into this headquarters of Nike, and they're all wearing Nike clothes, and I'm the only one wearing suit, too big suit, skinny guy. It's like funny story. They were laughing at me, but it was good. So they gave us a credit line for clothes, and because we were so different than any other store in Poland, in fact there was only one more store like this in Warsaw. They said we have access. They gave us access to special line of clothing not available for any other store in Poland. So we had very exclusive line of clothing, right? And every, before the summer season, we would go in winter before that, like 6 months before, I would go to Warsaw, to Nike Poland, and they would have all these clothes, displayed, and I would choose what I want within their credit line. And then if 6 months later, they would deliver to store for the season, right? So business started going really well. In fact, it started going so well that I decided to quit uni. I was never interested anyway. I just went to uni because in Poland everybody would go to uni back in the day, especially my family. It's a normal family, but my parents they both graduated. My brother is he's an engineer, graduated, and I was the only one who was like, oh, okay, I had to go, but I didn't want to. But yeah, I quit halfway through. After 2.5 years, I quit, and I just focused on business. And I focused so much that actually it was my biggest failure, life failure, and it led me to coming to England. And the thing was, the business became so popular, so successful, and I was in my 20s. I didn't know much about anything, and it just got too much for me. I was immature, not mature enough to actually handle that kind of fame and money coming in, and it failed spectacularly. So I was left with debt, all that government grant I had to repay. There's some money to pay back from Nike Poland and other companies, Adidas or something. So obviously I was like in a deep shit. So I decided there's no way I can make that money back in Poland, because I didn't even finish university, right? So no way. So I decided to just go to England. And that's what I did. I packed my stuff together with my then business partner and friend. We decided, okay, let's go. We packed ourselves. We took bicycles, one of each. Each one of us have a bicycle. I remember I managed to get, I sold some stuff, my DJ stuff, my DJ thing, DJ equipment, and I managed to get about £200 cash. And we got on a bus with bicycles and we came to England. And the plan was to stay here for 6-12 months, make some money somehow, and send it back to Poland, pay my debt, and go back, right? And then just start again my life. I didn't, without any plan. And long story short, I was 15, almost 16 years ago. So of course, things change. Now, when I came to England, you see, after failing a business, and this is important, right? Because I want you to understand what it actually is to be an entrepreneur as well. And at the end of this video, I'll also tell you about the special place I'm actually creating for all of you who there's a lot of you asking me questions about the business, entrepreneurship, language, anything apart from what I'm recording videos, like outside of our channel. And there's a place where I'll offer you to come and ask all those questions. But I'll tell you this more about at the end. But there's, lots of you, it's important for you maybe, or interesting probably, you've got to learn about the entrepreneurship and what it takes in order to get through all the failures and mistakes and build some sort of success. And bear in mind, and I keep talking about this, like 95% of things I do in my life, 95% business ideas, anything I try to do is a failure. And only 1, 2, 3 ideas out of 100 or maybe 5 work somehow, right? So because of the failure back in Poland, I was very down. Obviously, I was scared. I didn't want to touch a business ever again. I was basically ready to give up on business and just get on myself, get some nice job, just typical immigrant life. Get a job, slowly progress, hopefully one day get some mid-manager position and just retire pretty much, right? Get a mortgage and all this stuff. But I started from the very bottom. So I was trying to find a job for a month as a bicycle courier, self-employed, not employed, like self-employed bicycle, and not food delivery. There was no food delivery back then. It was actual deliveries, like mail, documents between banks, offices, so quite interesting job. And I got myself first job. I was basically cheated by this English guy. He had his office in southwest London, and he would be sending me all over the London, like from southwest London to Canary Wharf with laptops and stuff. And he wouldn't pay me at the end, right? So after 2 weeks, he didn't pay me. I left. I didn't know what to do. Obviously, I couldn't speak English well enough. I didn't know there's any place I could go and get help. So I just basically left after 2 weeks of wasting my time and working for somebody for free. And then I started looking for more courier work, and I found one company. Nobody wanted to give me a job because I had very little experience. I could barely speak English. I was at the very bottom of the journey, right? But I was getting desperate because my £200 were basically, I was running out of cash. I was still living with my friend. I was, sharing a room, so he was kind enough to let me stay with him, sleep on the floor. But I knew that I have another maybe month or two, and then I'm going to have to go back because that was the mentality back in the day. I didn't even know about benefits or anything like this. I don't even know if they were back then, right? It's like, so you came to England, you tried to get a job. If you didn't get a job, you would go back to Poland. That was healthy immigration, I think, right? That's what I was facing. So after some few weeks, I was really getting desperate, and you couldn't get a job anywhere. You couldn't get a job as a kitchen porter. You couldn't. Nobody, everywhere, wherever I applied, they wanted to have experience in London, right? It was different times, and I was getting desperate. So I decided to. I knew that either I'll get the job, I'm going back home. So the next company I applied, for this self-employed courier work, right? Nothing fancy. They called me into the office. It was in East London, in Hackney. And they said to me like, oh, okay, we're going to put you on the list, the usual, put you on the list, and when there's a free spot, we're going to call you. And I was so desperate. I said, look guys, I really need that job. I'll work for you for free for 1 week. So to prove that I'm really good, and then you can decide if you want to hire me. And I think because of that attitude, they were kind of like surprised to see that kind of attitude, I'm going to do it. And they decided to give me a chance actually to work with them, right? So there's another bit about this. I'm not gonna bore you to death, but it's like basically, long story short, within a week I was given a walkie-talkie radio, like courier bag, and I was like told, okay, there you go, off you go. We're gonna start giving you work. And from that point on, it was very hard. I couldn't understand anything on that radio. My controller was English, proper English. There was a couple of English people, very English. One was Cockney, one was somewhere else from England. It was a difficult job for me because they were giving me all details through radio. So they would call my call sign. I think that was 105 or 107. 107, and I have to answer in all this traffic on the bike. And they would tell me through the radio details, go to a street number, building number, postcode. And that was the time I was like, what is postcode? Like, what is West 2, West 1, where's East 1? Like, complete madness, right? So as you can imagine, I wasn't doing very well. I was always saying, Roger, Roger, okay, like typical immigrant who doesn't understand English. And then I would end up doing wrong job, getting late, being late, all these things. So one day they called me into the office and they said to me, the controller's name was Lee. And he was like, Alex, this is the last time. We're going to give you one more chance. But if you keep screwing like that, we're going to have to let you go. And I took it really seriously, obviously. But that was the last time I screwed up, because the only thing they had with me was, don't say okay if it's not okay. Ask to repeat the details, and we're going to do it. So what they did for me, and I remember they were very kind. So there was this one gentleman, older guy working in the office. So I was the only one. They would call on the phone rather than on the radio. So they realized radio is not good for me now. I'm not good enough in English. So they would call me on the radio at 107, I'm going to call you with job details. So then I had time to stop somewhere on the side. And they would call me on my mobile phone, and they would slowly give me all the details, spell it all for me very patiently, right? And I was very thankful that, it was amazing. Thank you for that. Unfortunately, that company is no more, and I don't know what these guys are doing, but they were amazing. And because of that, I decided I'm not going to screw up. I'm going to say, sorry, I don't know can you repeat all these things? Eventually, it started working out, and I started getting better, right? So I worked out my way to become a top courier for them, bicycle courier. I started making, back then for me, amazing money, but I was self-employed money, so I would be paying my tax. Well, I wasn't paying taxes back then. I had to pay back later, years later. But eventually, I got to the point where I found a different job for a different company, for medical bicycle courier, right? And I started working for this biggest company in London. I was lucky when I applied for the job. They said they've just opened a new kind of opportunity for bicycle couriers in the healthcare department. If I was interested, I can apply, which I did. And again, long story short, I was already experienced. I could speak some English. I became top courier within that department in the healthcare. And I started making double the money I was making in previous companies, so I was very happy. I've learned English a lot because of the radio, because again, that was all radio, open channel. I talked about this in my other videos. So I was listening to people talking on channel, and I was just pretending I'm talking to them as well, being part of the conversation. And this allowed me to actually learn a lot of English while I was cycling all day, right? So I was making 50, 70 miles on the bicycle every day. I was extremely skinny, as you can imagine. I'm very tall, so I was broke still. I couldn't afford much, and there was no time. And if you do 50, 70 miles on the bicycle every day, it's hard to keep your weight up, right? So, but I've learned English. I've learned London very well. I knew all single street names in central London, right? So we had a good, that was a good time for me, right? In the meantime, there was, I became quite popular as a courier. I won one of the most important yearly races for couriers. It was illegal race, so we're basically racing across London. It was 3 hours long race across all over London, illegal in Friday evening. So it was very dangerous. Stupid things. I was younger. I wouldn't do it now again, but I've done it, and I won that race. And I won actually a bicycle frame, carbon frame, which back then it was whoa, nobody had. I think it was the first courier in London actually cycling using carbon frame bicycle for work. But then again, long story short. Sorry, I'm just going to have a quick sip of water. Then I decided about after 3 years, I decided, and I was doing 3 years, summer, winter, all weather, difficult job. But I started making quite decent money. I was already renting a room somewhere. There was a time where I was briefly homeless, but there was a transition between those two jobs. So I was living in a squat. I was squatting in central London and Old Street. There was a time when I really had no money. I was skipping food from restaurants. Like they leave it after closing. They would leave bag full of sandwiches, fresh food outside. So I would go there and pick it up. I knew the times, places where to go. I would go to Hare Krishna people to get some meals. I knew all these things. I was like very street smart. But then after 3 years of living this life, I was eventually renting a room in Bethnal Green in London, East London. And I decided I need to do something else with my life. I'm getting older. I'm the best courier right now, bicycle courier. The only next step would be to get a van, be a van driver, which is the next level of earnings. But I wasn't sure I want to be a courier anymore, right? Because I knew it's like dead end job. Eventually, it's just what else? So I went to the office and I talked to my manager. His name is Jeffrey. We're still friends to this day. And he saw something in me. And he said, okay, Alex, you want to leave? I get it. How about join us in the office? And bear in mind, I was just their best courier there for 3 years. So they kind of get to know me, but I had zero experience. And my language was okay-ish, but still not good enough to be to communicate easily, especially on the phone or anything. But that manager, Jeffrey, he kind of gave me a chance. He saw something in me. And he gave me a job in the office. All right. So I was told I'm going to make the same money as I was making on the bicycle, which was actually not true. That's a different story. So I decided to move into that office. I was thinking I'm going to make the same money which I was making back on the road. I wasn't, but again, long story short, I stayed there for about a couple of years. In that office, started making coffees, answering phone calls, just being this Polish guy on a big floor full of controllers, English people. I was the only one non-English, which was great for my learning language, right? But it was difficult for me mentally. But I was getting better and better. Within the next few months, I was, from this answering phone calls, I was promoted to actually being a help of controller. And the next couple of months, I actually offered my boss. And this is something about me. I'm always trying to find opportunity. I'm just going out there asking for it, right? I'm not sitting back waiting for opportunities. I'm looking for them myself. And I'll tell you later about the business, how important it was for my success overall. So I offered my boss, because I already saw what's happening within the circuit, within the deliveries, in that particular office. And I offered my boss that I'm going to bring more bicycle couriers if you want, will let me, and I'm going to build bigger department, and we're going to do more deliveries on the bicycles. And again, long story short, they agreed. And eventually, within the next few months, I was running my own bicycle courier department within the healthcare for that company, running actually for deliveries for one of the biggest healthcare clients, right? The biggest private laboratory based in Wimpole Street in Harley Street district. And I was promised that if it works, I'm going to get a pay rise. And this is where things kind of started falling apart, because once the things started working, I was going to my manager a few times asking for the pay rise and a promised pay rise. And then he would go back to his bosses, and they would always tell me, okay, we don't have budget for now, wait for until the end of the year, there's a new budget, blah, 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 right? The usual. But eventually, the new budget was never budget for me. So I decided I'm going to leave. And I applied for a new job, which was a head of courier department for the biggest private medical laboratory in London, right? It was based in West End, in Whitfield Street. Now it's based in St. Pancras. It's a huge building, 15-story building. But when I moved in there, it was smaller, right? But when I applied for the job, suddenly my old boss was like, oh no, you can't leave, Alex. We're going to match the salary, all of this. I said, sorry. I gave you like 4 months. I was working, every day asking for this pay rise and all of this. And I was constantly being, basically ghosted or just told it's going to happen later. Now you want me to stay because I already got a different job position secured, and I'm sorry, I'm leaving. And that was I doubled my money. So up until that time, I was on a very little money, below £20,000 a year salary. So it was, even back then, it was very little. It was not enough for me to rent a flat or anything. I was still living in a room, but I was working in a clean office environment. I was learning, and that was the most important part for me. So I was able to take a pay cut in return for opportunity to grow, because I knew that's the future. That's the future for me. So I was able to postpone the reward for later. And that's what many people has got problems with. And it goes same with business. Like you have to be able to wait for the rewards come later in order to grow and succeed. So you have to invest most likely your time and energy until somebody pays you, right? But because these people didn't want to pay me at all, so I moved to a different company on the friendly terms. But I said, look, I'm moving. So they agreed, and there was more opportunities there. And I worked for this company there. It was a huge, biggest private pathological laboratory in the UK. They had like 150 couriers, in-house couriers, and I was in charge of running them with other people, English people. Again, only me Polish. All other people around me were English, much older than me. I had to go through things like, they were laughing at me and not always treating me seriously. But they were okay. I was like very alpha male environment. Lots of couriers, alpha male, like Brits, proper 40, 50, 60 years old motorbikers, courier Brits, right? So it was also a good environment for me to actually build my character, build up my character. And I had to prove myself to these people because then I had to kind of lead them, tell them what to do, right? I wasn't directly their boss, but I was directing their work. And often I had these people being kind of like reluctant to it. They didn't want to get these things from young Polish guys. So I had to build this. I couldn't go this, hey, boss, they don't listen to me, right? Because then I would get sacked. So again, eventually it worked out, and I was respected. I had good place, good job. I was making enough money to actually rent a small flat in London with my partner, but my girlfriend back then, and that was the time. I stayed there for a couple of years, and eventually I decided, and that was the time. Bear in mind, I came from failed business, so that was the time when I actually realized I went back into this, started thinking about business, because I saw opportunities within all this environment, office environment, couriers. And I tried to improve things from within that company. I was naive enough to actually send like letters to CEO and the top executives within that company, asking them for opportunity. Again, you see, this is what I've been doing. Opportunity to improve operations. And I had ideas listed, but they never gave me opportunity. It was too big company, right? They were too serious to let this Polish young bloke with zero experience in real, operations and at high level to just run things. So they ignored me. And I understand now. I'm experienced now enough with everything, and I understand why. But I tried this, and because they didn't want to listen to me, I decided I'm going to do it myself. And that's where I went back into a business mode. So I've quit my job. I opened my own medical courier business. And that was about, I think, 2017 or 18 or something like this. And it was hard. I got married in the meantime. And my wife was pregnant with our first son. And that's where I quit, foolishly. I was just very optimistic about the future, let's say. Again, I wouldn't do it probably this time, at my age. But back then, I just did. I quit the job, opened my own business, and I said, look, it's going to be great. Eventually, it was great, right? But it took me about a year to get the first client. So, we got some money I took a loan. Although I just paid my debt, I decided to take another loan and I just take the risk and go in. We bought a moped, a scooter bike, put some stickers around it, and we just registered business, and we called ourselves medical couriers. I was called medical logistics, actually. And within a year, next year, I was doing everything. I was doing deliveries for myself within London. First I had to call a client, get a client. So I was looking for clients, sending emails, calling people, trying to get anyone to trust me enough to actually give us some work. Obviously, all the admin work, everything, set up website, doing webs, all of it I was doing myself, right? And eventually got a client, 1, 2, and within a year, we started having maybe a couple of extra couriers working with us. One of them was my friend who was doing it pretty much for free because I couldn't afford him, but it was not enough people. There's more work than just one courier myself. I could actually do it. But I couldn't afford a courier, so I was like a little bit difficult situation. But a friend of mine who used to work in the previous company as a courier, a medical courier, he was kind enough to help me, right? So he was doing deliveries for very little money for me. And it allowed me to grow the business as a courier business. And at some point, I even managed to get my previous employer, the biggest laboratory I told you I worked at. It took me about a year and a half maybe to actually get them as my client. And that's where things started. That was the big moment for me. That's where things actually started growing, right? That lab started being with us. Then I could actually advertise to the world that this big lab is working with me. I became actually a business person from that moment on. We started making some money. And I started growing business, right? Up until that time, I had really difficult period. We had zero money in the family. My wife was staying home with our kid. I actually there was a period in my life when I had to apply for some benefits, housing benefit, because we couldn't afford house, basically, flat, not house, flat in London, and we had kids, so we couldn't live in a rental room. And that was, again, that time when I was so grateful because I was allowed to get support. That was after years of me working, paying taxes, all of that. But there was actually a time in my life when I needed support, and I think that's the support was set it up for. So I was a few months on this housing benefits. We couldn't afford anything. I remember, like, we couldn't even go out to McDonald's with my wife, right? It was just not enough money. So it was very lean, stressful. But when that client finally came through, that big laboratory, and money started coming in, I actually sent a letter to council, and I told them, like, thank you so much for your help, but I want to stop now. I'm making money. I want to grow myself. And I was very proud of it. I'm probably the only Pole who ever done this in the UK, right? I actually sent letter saying, thank you so much for all that support. Please don't send any more money. I'll now make my money myself. And the important part about this, it was, you see, because I knew that and I talk about this in my other videos, if you have this free money coming in, it makes you lazy. It makes you comfortable. There's enough money to get by, not enough to thrive, but enough to get by. And that's why you're actually never going to progress in your life. So I knew I would be much better off without taking any money from anyone and just getting it, grinding in myself, growing through it, and just getting more and more, rather than just being comfortably okay. And that's for all of you guys. If you are in a situation like this, or if you ever thought about this, like, get out of all this, benefit mindset. Don't take any money from anyone. And I never took any money ever since. Even in COVID, I could have taken all this benefit, whatever the people, COVID protection money, whatever they called. I never took a pound out of anyone. I've made every single money through directly for myself, working my businesses and just getting paid through private clients I worked with, right? So that courier company became successful, and I sold this a couple of years ago. It grew to a very big company, right? Eventually became a healthcare provider. During pandemic, we became key workers or something like this. So we had to actually work throughout pandemic, our couriers, our drivers, because we're delivering vital supplies for hospital, clinics, labs, transfusion blood, all of it, right? I was working still as a courier for maybe 3 years. For 3 years, actually, I didn't take one day off, right? Imagine this. This is 3 years. So it's like 1,000 days or some more than that, right? 365 times 3, whatever, like around 1,000 days. I didn't take one day off. So I was working 7 days a week, every week, including courier work on Sundays. I was doing 12-hour shifts in Ealing Hospital in London. So I've worked it all, right? I worked from the very bottom, then in my business, working myself, driving, doing this courier, all of it. But I was always very positive. I knew what I'm building, and there was always a little progress, a little bit more, better client, better work, more money coming in, more couriers. It was growing, right? And during pandemic, things changed because nobody was ready for this. But because I was already a healthcare provider in the UK, in London, so I knew that pandemic is going to be somehow, there's an opportunity there. And I talked about this on other videos about business. Whenever there's a fear and chaos, there's a lot of opportunities there, because not opportunistic taking money from someone, but because of the chaos and pain, therefore people need something to be solved for them, right? And if you can find that pain point and offer solution, that's where the business is. So again, long story short, we became medical provider during COVID. We had another layer of business, which was like home visits for blood tests before COVID. I trained myself to be a phlebotomist. Phlebotomy is like when you go to somebody's draw blood, that's a phlebotomy. So we were drawing bloods before that for like F1 drivers, very successful part of the delivery business. And when the COVID happened, we moved from taking blood to actually testing people for COVID and providing services to hospitals, even free of charge for the NHS transport services during, first stage of pandemic. And within the pandemic, the government stepped in. They introduced many regulations to make sure that the environment is regulated, healthcare regulated, not this cowboy people selling tests left and right from all over the place. But I decided to follow through. So at the end of the pandemic, we were actually full medical provider with medical doctors. And, I was hiring medical doctors, medical directors. We had all these policies in place, all the certifications, ISO certificates, UCAS accreditation, CQC accreditation, all these medical accreditations required to be a medical professional in the UK. So after COVID, I decided we're going to open our own laboratory and clinics in central London. which we have, right? And that's where the business went up until things went wrong with the lab. I opened a very expensive private laboratory in central London. I was with clinics, so the idea was to actually have all in logistics, doctors, testing, everything under one brand, right? There was few brands under one umbrella brand, and it worked well on paper. Unfortunately, the lab was so expensive. We built it off the Gray's Inn Road in Holborn in central London. Spent a lot of money, millions of pounds in there. Our own money we made through business. All those different businesses, COVID, transport, medics, bloods, all of it, right? We're really, really big, becoming a big company. So we reinvested money in building labs. We hired lots of people, hired medical staff, biomedical scientists, managers, quality managers, all of it. And it became so expensive, it actually became unsustainable. And this is where I failed. There's many things happened along the way. And at some point, we just ran out of time to become profitable enough to cover all our expenses. And because we never took any money from anyone, we were always self-funded. Eventually, I decided it's time, and that was 2 years ago, on January 3rd, we closed down the lab and we went through bankruptcy because we ran out of cash. Other parts of businesses were still successful, so I managed to sell the other parts, transport and clinics in central London. They are still there, but I was out. So that was the last time for me for when I was actually doing my own healthcare business, big business in London. And I took some time off after this. I went through lots of stress, pain, through the bankruptcy, a lot. Before that, I had people suing me left and right, employees, false racial discrimination claim. I had to defend myself in tribunal from actually a white English guy coming to tribunal telling them that we were racist somehow. Couldn't prove it in court, in tribunal. Eventually he lost, but it took us like a year and a half. Me defending myself and the company, lots of money. Nobody, obviously, after that we won, there was nothing, like nobody said anything. It was just, thank you very much, right? So I went through lots of pain, lots of stress, and I decided this is it. I never wanted to do it again, and I still don't, all right? I don't want to be running a big business like this anymore. But because of this old experience, I became this successful entrepreneur in the UK. I built a huge network of private professionals within the healthcare, doctors, medics, nurses, all of it. I know labs, hospitals, people all over UK, and I'm fairly known in that niche. And after that, after I sold the business, one collapsed, which was the biggest one, which was the biggest failure ever so far. I sold the other two small businesses. It allowed me to give me some breathing room, right, room to breathe, and actually refocus my life on me. So I decided to go more into my own businesses. I started building different brands, healthcare brands. They all failed, by the way, after this time. And this goes back to 95% failure. And then I was approached by many healthcare brands for asking them, especially startups, for people from the past as well. I made lots of connections, network, helping build their own brands in the UK. So which I did. It was more about selling my time as a consultancy. So I was consulting different brands. I failed my many new startups after that. And this basically led me to where I was beginning of this year, when I decided I'm going to move seriously into YouTube content creation, actually business myself, and I'm gonna treat YouTube as a max journey in my business, right? So I actually discovered I really like it. I'm enjoying what I'm doing this. It took me a long time to figure out what I want to talk about and all of it. But again, I came to YouTube with a business experience rather than just sitting me in front of the camera talking to myself. I was doing research, what people would like to talk about, what they like to listen about, what I can talk from my experience, and there's something people like to listen, right? I've been doing many public speaking before, so I was comfortable with this. And I had also feedback from people always saying, this is what they like to talk about, this is what they like to listen when I'm talking about, right? So I ended up with my YouTube channel, and this is where it's becoming now my main thing. This is where I'm focusing my 100% attention as a future path for where I want to be as a business, right? And so this is a story I wanted to tell you for everyone out there who's struggling with an idea, struggling with identity crisis as an immigrant, or maybe you think you're coming from places where you're not good enough. That's not true. You see, life is very unpredictable, good and bad way. Good things and bad things can happen overnight, and I had these things happen in my life many times. From collapsed business to people coming up and helping me out. People I would never expect. They would come up and give me a hand and lift me up from days when I was the darkest moments of my life. I had people come in and they would lift me up. Literally, they would give me a hand to make me stand up and help me get through that time. And only because I never gave up on myself and on actually believing in myself and something I can achieve more, only then I was able to actually do something, right? And now I have family, you know, I'm living in Cotswolds in England, and I'm building channel and other businesses, which I'll tell you in a second. But only because I never gave up, because I was always positive about there is more to it, to life. And as long as I keep moving, improving a little bit by bit, English, my life, where I live, who I hang around with, all these things, little things, they add up. And eventually it becomes like overnight success. And this is what this YouTube is now. Now it's 3,000 subscribers, right? I remember a few months ago, I recorded a video about 500 subscribers while I was grateful. And there was somebody coming and respectfully giving me, like, why do you have 500 subscribers? What gives you right to talk about giving advice about 500 subscribers, right? And this is exactly the mindset I have, because every step of your life, wherever you are right now, there's a purpose for it. And you can either learn from it and use it as your advantage to move ahead, or you can get stuck there mentally and say, oh my God, it's all done, what's the point, right? And that's the default thinking for many people, especially immigrants. What's the point? Or you get to the point where it's kind of comfortably and you just don't want to move ahead because it's risky or something. So if it works for you, if it's working, that's working. But for many people, it doesn't work. You feel stuck in your life. You still feel stuck in your job. You just don't know what to do. And you feel this nagging voice in your head. There's more, right? And I have this feeling every day of my life. I had for many, many years. The difference between me and you is now I'm not super smart or anything. It's just I take action. I just hear this voice and I just take risk, take action, and see what happens. And normally it just turns out okay. I always tell myself, like, what is the worst case scenario? Like, what if I fail? Like, often people come to me and say, how do you take risk, Alec? Why would you do it? Like, because there's no other option for me. There was never an option. Like the job I told you I got, there was no option. I had to get that job. I would be going back to Poland, and I didn't want that. So the same thing happens with how you grow your life, how you grow your business, family, everything. What's the worst case scenario? You just give yourself all in, focus, laser focus on what you want to achieve, and just grow it. Grow your business, grow your family, relationships, to become better, learn English, all these things, right? And often you need somebody like myself who's going to keep telling you this. That's why I also have channel. I want to be positive for people in their lives. I want to talk about difficult topics, but I want to give you positive feelings after all of it, because it's so important. And I have my own experience. Again, I was really, really hard for many, many years in my life, and I was never given anything for free. But because I was positive, and there were people around me like myself who were able to lift me up and just keep pushing when the times were hard. And because of that, I decided to actually add on part to this community. Like, so the YouTube is one part of what I'm doing, right? And this is, it's great, it's growing, and it's gonna grow a lot. I know it because I can see it already, right? It's amazing. Thank you so much for all of you guys here. And thank you for all the feedback, because it makes difference in many of your lives. You keep telling me how important it is. You don't even know how important it is to me if you say this to me, right? So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. But then I also get a lot of comments from people saying, like, business. Oh, those comments like, can you record a video about opening a business? People asking me about language, how to learn language, how to build confidence, how to get this chip on the shoulder off you, like as an immigrant, you feel inferior. There's a lot of questions which are outside of the YouTube as it is right now, right? It's outside of what I can talk to. And also, if you ask me comments on the videos, which I'm trying to answer each one of them, there are hundreds, if not thousands of those. I take loads of time to answer each one of comments. I can only answer once, and then the comment disappears, and there's another one and another. So I can never have a conversation with anyone, in-depth conversation about something. I can only answer your comment and I'm moving on, right? So because there's so many people around and people have questions, and actually I know I can help with many of you, I can get you help, but I don't have time to spend each one of you separately. I decided to open a place where you can actually come and talk to me, be with me, and it's a private community. We can come, you can sign up, and you will have access to basically to me. Think about me being in your corner, right? So if you something about, you want to talk about particular things about in your life, business, startups, healthcare, even parenting. You know, I have 3 kids, young kids, so I have some experience in that. Immigrants life, anything like it, you can come to that place and ask me a question, and then we will be talking. There's going to be a place for people like you and myself where you can actually be there, start building things together and answering. I can mentor you, right? Because I can't do it one by one. It would be too expensive, and I have not enough time, and I don't even do that anymore. But I do want to have a connection with you. I want to build it further. And once we start building community, then I'm actually going to start talking about my further business plans outside of this community, outside of the YouTube, which I'll be doing more like a YouTube business hub for smaller channels who wants to grow and have problems in getting past through the 500 subscribers, 1,000, but they don't understand the business as well. So I want to focus on that. But I will talk about this in this community. Now, I've had in the past, I had a community, free of charge community called the Non-Native Entrepreneur Community. I ran it for the year last year. I had like a couple of hundred members there, but I didn't have an idea, a plan for it, what to do with it. And I kind of ended up with a place where nobody was interested enough, not even myself. And it was free of charge. And I realized that I spent too much time and energy on people who are not interested enough. I can't be doing everything for everyone. And there are lots of people who really want to move in their lives. They don't know what to do. If I was back in the day, I had the opportunity to be part of this kind of community, it would probably save me years of my life. Who knows, right? I would definitely want to be part of it. So I want to be doing for others, but not for free. So the cost is a minimum cost. It's only $10, $10 US a month. And the reason for the cost is because I don't want everyone there. I'm sorry. It's like that. This YouTube channel is for everyone. Everyone is welcome. You can leave me a comment. I'll answer one comment and I'm gone. If you want to go deeper in your life, you want to be working with me, it's going to cost you $10 a month, right? Which is what, £6? I don't know. It's very minimum money. Most people can afford it. But this is the barrier for people who are not interested to be there. Just normally people, they would sign up, oh, I'll have a look what's there. And they would just never get part of the community, never be involved enough, right? To be actually moving that community forward. So if you're willing, if you have questions, you want to be working with me, or you want me to work with you, help you on things, there's a place, I will link it down in the description. It's called the Non-Native Community. It costs $10 a month, and you can have me for a whole month, every month. You can quit anytime you want. I don't care. I'm not going to judge anyone. You can come in for 1 month, ask some questions, and then you can go. Perfectly fine. If you don't want to go, absolutely fine. By all means, please stay here on the channel, be my subscriber. And like I say, one question I'll answer, and I'll record videos as much as I can, hopefully as helpful as they are now. If you want more, if you would like to have more contact with me, there will be probably once or twice a month Q&As and have live connection, then please read the description, click the link below, come on in, $10 if you want. There'll be people like you around there. There are people you might be able to do business with or talk. I want to build actually the interactive community around people like us, all of you having questions, right? And if you're serious about yourself, it's going to cost you $10. If you're not as serious, or you're not around, you're not allowed to, able to afford it now, or you're not in place right now, I understand. Maybe later, sometime in the future, just stick to videos to my channel, and I appreciate that. That's it. I think it's 43 minutes. It's a long one. I'll leave it here. So again, I wanted to thank everyone for 3,000 subscribers and more, growing. I want to thank you for all your time, for your support, for being here, for all your comments. It gives me a strength to keep doing what I'm doing, and I am getting more passionate about this. This place, bear in mind, keep this in mind, okay? This place, very soon, is going to be very, very successful channel. So I'm going to have less and less time to spend with each one of you. I know some of you by now, we're kind of even friends through nicknames, right? We talk in the comments. If you're interested in growing your YouTube, get to my community. I'll tell you what's happening next outside of the community. That's a premium package for later on. We're going to do proper business around this. But if you're interested, if you've got your small YouTube channel and you want to be serious about that, I think that's going to be a place for you. You're going to be interested. For all of you being on my channel, again, thank you so much. Bear in mind, trust me, that channel is going to be very, very successful, very big, very soon. And I want you to be part of it. I want to thank you for being part, for actually making it for me, because I wouldn't do it without you. I would never be able to do anything in my life without people around me. There's always somebody helping me, right? I wouldn't take money from anyone, but there were people around, people like-minded people who wanted to help. And I am one of those people. I'm helping others. I help many, many people. I'll be sharing more personal stories in my community. Stories of people, actual people I helped. There are actually people watching this channel. I had a comment, I screenshot it from one of my employees, and she said she worked with me and I was always great. Like, I'll try to put it in the video, this comment. So I'm doing a lot to help others, but I can't do everything for everyone, and I can't do things for people who are not serious about it. So if you want to be with me, come to the community. If you want enjoying my videos, by all means stay here. I'm loving it. Thank you so much for your support. I hope this video answers you some of your questions about who I am, gives you a better picture of who I am. There'll be more coming. So, you know, every 1,000 subs, maybe I record something like this, but I'll be telling more, going in depth into my story. And until then, I'm wishing you a fantastic day. Thank you again. So I'm absolutely thankful for all of you. I'm thankful for the Great Britain. I'm thankful for British people, for all the immigrants, all the natives supporting this channel, supporting me throughout years of my life here. Every single person who was somehow part of my journey, I want to thank you personally. Again, wishing you a great day. Thanks so much. I'll be seeing you soon. Cheers.